Hello everyone, today we will learn about using square brackets, vector addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, and functions in R. So to start, let's see how to use square brackets in R. Let's say you have a vector Z with the following elements. We have to use C if we want to add more elements. Let's say you have 50, 34, 11, 20, 40, 89, 76, 53, 51, 90, and let's say 19. Your vector Z has these elements. And then let's say you want to access, you don't want to obtain all the elements. You want a specific element. For the time being, if we use print Z, if you run this, you will get all the elements of vector Z. Let's say if I want first element or second or last element, or I want to ignore some element or first and second, I want to ignore first and second. How to go about this? We have to use a square bracket. Let's say if I write Z, then followed by square bracket. Then inside the square bracket, I need to provide which element I want. If I run this, I'll get 50, meaning that first element. So by writing Z, then square bracket, I'll be able to access only first element. If you write Z square bracket, then 2, here you will access the second element. What if I want to access only first to third element? First 3 elements, I mean. Z followed by square bracket, then 1, 2, 3. This means that I will be able to access the first 3 elements of the vector Z. If you run this, you will get the first 3 elements of vector Z. Let's say I want the vector Z, but I want to exclude the first element. Then I have to write Z square bracket, then I don't want the first element. So R will return a vector excluding the first element. So if you run this, you will get the remaining element excluding the first element. What if I want to exclude, let's say if you write 1, 2, 4, this one will exclude the first 4 elements of the vector Z. So if you see this one, show that it has excluded the first 4 elements. Our vector Z is this one, and if you compare this vector and the output on the console, you can see that 50, 34, 11, and 20 have been excluded from the by providing this match to your vector Z. Also, let's see if I want if we write like this, C, if we provide C inside concatenation, then I want first element and fifth element. Here I will just get the first element and the fifth element. To execute this also, you can just control then enter. You'll get your output. So here I just get the first and the fifth element of the vector z. Also, you can get, if you want to get more elements, like if you provide C inside, then 2, if you want second element, I want fifth element, and 10. It will provide you the element, the second element, the fifth element, and the 10th element. So this is how to use the square brackets to access the element inside the vector. This is just in case you don't want to use all the elements. Maybe you are intending to use only specific element inside the vector. So after seeing this, let's see how we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of vectors. Let's say you have vector A, and this vector A, you want to have, let's say, element from 1 up to 4. By writing this, it means you want to assign this vector A element from 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you have vector B has the following element. Let's say you have 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then you want to do addition, A plus B. If you execute this, you'll get A plus B is this much, meaning that our vector A has the first has 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then if you add with B, which has 2, 4, 6, and 8, then you can get this much. Similar way, you can do subtraction, A minus B. Also, you can do A times B. Also, you can do a division, A divided by B. So this is how you can do vector addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Also, your results, all of your results, you can choose to store them in object, and it will appear in your global environment. Another thing we can see here today is functions in R. In R, there are so many inbuilt functions, but for today we can't discuss them all. We just want to have an idea of the functions which are inbuilt inside R and how we can use them. Then this one will give us an idea. Even if we come up across a new functions, then we shall know how to use it. So let's start by looking on the function called rnorm. This function enables you to print the numbers which follows normal distribution. This meaning that normal distribution, and R stands for random numbers. So it will enable you to print random numbers which follows normal distribution. To know about this function, please press F1. Then you will get how to use this function, rnorm, meaning that you have to provide your sample size n, mean 0, and the standard deviation is equal to 1. Let's say you write 5 and the mean, you can write n is equal to 5. By default, mean is equal to 0. By default, mean is equal to 0 and standard deviation is equal to 1. If you execute this, just control then enter if you are using Windows, and if you are using Mac, command then return. You get random numbers which follows normal distribution with the mean 0 and standard deviation of 1. 5 random numbers. It will return 5 random numbers which follows normal distribution with mean 0 and standard deviation of 1. Hereby we have specified this, but by default R understand that mean is equal to 0 and standard deviation of 1. So even if you don't specify this, it means you will still get your results. It will also return random numbers, 5 random numbers, which follows normal distribution with mean 0 and the standard deviation of 1. But you can choose to specify mean and standard deviation apart from 0 and 1. Let's say you have R norm, you want random numbers which follows normal distribution. 10, let's say you have 10, you want 10 random numbers and the mean of 3 and the standard deviation of 2. Here it will return, the function will return 10 random numbers which follows normal distribution with mean of 3 and standard deviation of 2. This, the way we have typed it here, you can type it in this way also. You specify n is equal to let's say 10 as we wrote, and then mean is equal to 3, then standard deviation is equal to 2. Also it will give you random numbers which follows normal distribution, 10 random numbers which follow normal distribution with mean 3 and the standard deviation of 2. So this is how to use this function rnorm, random numbers. It will give you random numbers which follows normal distribution. Another function that we can discuss here is sequence. This sequence, it gives you a sequence of numbers, and it depends to the user how many sequence numbers, how many numbers do you want, the interval between the numbers. You can be able to specify by using this function. To know more about this function, just press the cursor before the brackets, and then press F1. Then it will appear here that how to use this function. Like this, it shows you like you need to have from, you need a sequence which start from which number, and then to, and then by. So if you want like a sequence of let's say from, I want from 10, let's say to 20 by 3, you will get your sequence of numbers from 10 to 20 by 3. So 3 here has been used as the difference. Then from 10 you need to go to 13, then from 13 to 16, then 16 to 19. So the difference is by 3. Another functions that are inbuilt, all these functions are inbuilt in R. Also, let's see another function which is square root. Square root. This square root is my most commonly used, and just in case, like let's say this sequence we have created here, let's store this sequence into a vector. Let's say vector x, and then we want to have the square root of vector x, so we need to provide here square root, and then inside the square root we need to provide the name of the vector. So we need to run this. Then on our R console we have the square root of the vector x, and these results you can store them in another vector. So let's say you wish to store the result into another vector y. So if you execute this, you will get your result, and now we have y in our R environment, global environment. So if you want to get the result, you can simply write y, or you can print y. So in either way is correct, you'll get the same output. This is how you can use a square root function. Another functions that we can try to see here is a paste function. Paste. This paste function can be used to connect two character vectors. Let's say you have vector 1 with the elements A, B, C, A, B, C, D, and then the second vector has the elements to A, to B, to C, to E. And then I want to combine, to add these two vectors. I will use the paste function. So vector 3 is equal to paste. I have to provide the first vector, then followed by second vector, and then to get the result I will use print vector 3. So run all this, you will get the output on your R console. And if you see here, we have A to A, B to B, C to C. It's the combination of vector 1 and vector 2. So we managed to do this by using a paste function. We have more functions in R, like mean function. This one will give you the average. Let's say you want the average of of vector z, let's say, we have to provide z inside the parentheses, and then if you run this, you'll get your average on your R console. Similarly, you can get maximum. This one will give you a maximum for vector z. You can get minimum of vector z. You can get standard deviation of vector z. Also, you can round off your answers into, let's say, 2 decimal places, 1 decimal places, 3 decimal places. You see, let's say I want to round off mean of vector z into 1 decimal places, into 1 decimal place. And to know more about this function round, just place your cursor before the bracket, then press F1. Then you will get how to use the function, and the function round means we have to provide here our object, and then we have to specify how many digits. See, and here we specify we just need only 1 decimal place for our mean of z. So let's run this one by one. Mean of z, and the maximum is 90, and the minimum is 11, and then standard deviation is 27, and then round off into 1 decimal place. So if you see, our mean is this much, so round off into 1 decimal place, you will get this much.